Hi everyone, and welcome to the first ever The Woolly Vet Knitting and Spinning and Vet Student Life podcast. My name is Kate, and this is Whiskey. Oh, yeah, that's you. And we are so excited to start our YouTube channel today, aren't we? So it'll be kind of a theme of this podcast that you'll see lots of animals. As a veterinary student and soon to be vet, naturally my life is animals, full of animals who are kind of always in my personal space. So hopefully they won't be too distracting. But if you like puppies and kitties, then this is the place to be. Right. So a little bit about me. I am 26 years old. I am originally from Massachusetts in the US, and I moved to Scotland 4 years ago to pursue a degree in veterinary medicine. Veterinary medicine has always been my dream, and I have dedicated the greater part of my 20s to following that dream. Um, During that time, though, it's a super stressful, super overwhelming career path. And I discovered knitting about 2 years ago, but I didn't really start taking it seriously till like second part of last year, where I discovered just how much you could do with knitting. Most of my knitting projects were blankets for babies or like little headbands and things that I would gift to friends. And I was crocheting and knitting, but it wasn't really anything I took seriously. It was just kind of like, oh, that's pretty yarn, or oh, you're having a baby, I'll make you something. So yeah, so just this past year, I started getting right into my knitting. I'm actually wearing my first ever sweater right now. This is sweater number 26 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which I'll talk about a bit more later in this podcast. But yeah, so I also discovered spinning, which I never thought I would ever do. In undergrad, I worked with a kind of group of alpacas for research purposes, and they were lovely. Most of my job was just taking care of them and spending time with them twice a day. I'd go and clean after them. But the farmer that owned all of the alpacas, she used to process the fiber, and I used to go into her shed and have a nosy every now and then, and never thought it would be my life one day. um, yeah, and as a veterinary student, I work quite closely with sheep, and most of the first 2 years of my veterinary career was lambing, which is where you go to a sheep farmer's flock and you volunteer your time for a couple of weeks and you help the sheep give birth if they need help. And since we have that background knowledge in veterinary medicine, we can kind of get our toes wet in the clinical setting of farm animal medicine. So I spent a couple of weeks doing that, and then now I just go and work with some friends because I have Scottish friends who are farmers, which is amazing. And we've helped them last spring, and I'm hoping to help them again. And yeah, since then, spinning has kind of just happened, and since then, I really can't stop. So there's going to be a couple of different segments, I hope, to this podcast, where one side of things will be veterinary medicine, life of vet student kind of vibes, but most of my podcast, I hope to be knitting and spinning, and actually some spin to knit projects, which I have ready to go, that I've been procrastinating starting to film because I've been so terrified to film this first video. I am not typically somebody that likes to be on this side of the camera. Professionally, it was just never something that I thought I would have the bravery to do, especially since one day I will be a vet, and the thought of someone being able to look me up on the internet felt a little bit intimidating, especially if maybe you didn't like my content or I don't know. silly things that really don't matter in the grand scheme. Just yeah. But here I am. I'm giving it a shot. Hopefully it goes well. Right. So the purpose of this video was to introduce myself, and then I also was thinking I would talk about my 2024 knitting journey. I will say, oh, and spinning journey. I will say that my collection of works is not necessarily as impressive as a lot of other knitting podcast pages, which I know you're not supposed to compare yourself, but I casted on a lot of things, and I am plagued with never buying enough yarn or being a perfectionist and hating everything about 3/4 of the way through and ripping it all back. So yeah, that's going to be a goal of mine, is just to make sure I do all the math properly and make sure I'm on gauge before I start a project, because this is my only finished garment of 2024. So, right, I will jump right into it. So, first, I have, let's see, well, let's start here, right? I was saying how I created baby blankets for the past 2 years. So I'll insert some pictures here and here of the baby blankets that I made. I loved making baby blankets. I did eyelets and I did cables and I did just regular old knitting, stockinette. And I did my most recent baby blanket last year that took up most of my year, where I adapted a traditional Irish Aran sweater pattern to a baby blanket. It's my cousin. I have a cousin whose last name is Connolly, and they have a website database of all of the traditional Irish sweaters. So I took one of those and I turned it into a baby blanket just for him. And I'll insert a picture here. And oh, it was such a pleasure. And I think they really appreciated it. And I just loved to be able to give something sentimental to the new baby, because I otherwise can't really be there because I'm so far away, which is such a shame because I love my family. So, right, baby blankets aside, here are some garments that I started, not finished. Right. So, first things first, my biggest failure, right? Um, so, about like 2023 time, I think everybody was knitting the Porcelain Sweater by Lay Knit, and I was like, I knit a blanket once. I could do color work. So that's what I tried to do. Um, to be fair, not as horrible as it probably could have been. I watched about a million videos on holding 2 strands of yarn. I ended up buying tension rings. I practiced on swatches. I did the whole nine to try to prepare myself without actually having done color work. And what I had got is this. Now, this was my first time buying like nice specialty yarn from a yarn shop online, and I clearly got the wrong colors. I really wanted to do like a brighter blue with a softer, less like white. I got gray and a dusty blue. So that failed. So I wasn't in love with the colors. And then on top of that, my tension is quite tight, especially since I was knitting colorwork flat. Also something that I hate doing now that I've done colorwork, but just not the most beginner friendly way to introduce yourself to colorwork. Yeah. Anyway, I bought just enough to kind of get through the yoke ish. And I thought to myself, well, I'll buy this yarn since it's expensive. I'll buy just enough to get started. And then when I feel like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this, this is good, I'll buy more yarn. No. Um, I tried to buy the same yarn online for about 8 months, and I had emailed the company, done all these things, and I could not get it when it was in stock. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it's so hard to get. I don't know if it's because I'm in the UK and things are just a little bit tougher to get slash find when you're in the UK. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. Yeah, I couldn't finish it. And then after a certain point of staring at it, I was like, well, like, I mean, I even have the little neck hole. I can't believe I couldn't finish it. Anyway, um, would it be something I would like to knit again? Yes. I would like to actually buy all of the things I need and do it. I was looking at Kate Snooks on Instagram, who I just discovered through Woozy by Celine and Celine, Celine, Celine. Anyway, yeah. So I just discovered Katie Snooks, and she did a process kind of knitting documentation, and I really loved her sweater. I mean, she just did a fantastic job. And she's only been knitting for a year, which is crazy because she did her everything I made in 2024 and I was like, "Girl, are you kidding me?" She she was just she produced so many beautiful garments and she's just so talented. And I just thought to myself, "Oh my god, I need to step up my game." But that being said, I'm sure, well, I know so many knitting vloggers have um, crazy full-time jobs and are teachers and lawyers and have like a full and travel and everything else. Vet school is hell. I know they warn us that vet school is hell, but vet school really it's hell. So I tend to have to strategically make time to knit or end my day with some knitting. So I really don't have a ton of time to dedicate to it. And now I'm balancing my knitting between spinning, which has completely stolen my heart and I'm obsessed with it in every way. But yes, um, I would love to make that again. That was a really long winded way of saying that. Right. Okay. Next. Okay. So my next project is one I definitely need some advice on because I casted this on. I was feeling super confident and optimistic. I had just done the huge cable baby blanket that I made for my cousin's baby. And I was like, cables, I've got this. And I did not got this. I made the Billie pullover by Sari Nordland, and my intention was to make it for my boyfriend. And he has been begging me to make him like a traditional fisherman sweater style sweater. I'll put some maybe inspo pictures over here. I can't find a pattern that looks like a traditional fisherman sweater. I found maybe one from 1970, 80s vibes, and it's like knit flat, so seam it up. And I just can't see myself doing cables flat for like another huge project, especially one on a large rugby sized man. So I was like, I'll just knit the extra large. Now, I don't, something happens when I knit, right? I lose the ability to count. And that is exactly what happened here. I think I have all my panels done right, but as soon as I had to add my moss stitch, it was like I was short circuiting in my brain. Now, I'm not one that typically struggles with math or anything like that, but oh my goodness, it's like multiples of two, and I just can't, like, what is wrong with me? Anyway, I'll show you my starting point. It's on a pretty tight cable just now. So we've got like shoulders and back panels and yada yada. So the cabling themselves looks great. Like I'm following the pattern quite well, I think. And like, well, I'm following the pattern, and I can see that it's coming out the way like it's supposed to. But I was counting and I am like 96 stitches off from where I'm supposed to to split for sleeves. And I'm supposed to be splitting for sleeves like I don't know. I saw on Ravelry that someone had adapted the pattern for her partner, but I just don't see the notes, or maybe they haven't been updated when I had the opportunity to look. So I will definitely look at that again, but I don't know. I think I might rip it back. I don't know. I don't know. I really it would be such a shame to rip this whole thing back, right? Because I worked so hard on it. I mean, this is like I casted this. Well, okay, to be fair, I casted this on in November when we went to the U.S. For I had a conference out in Seattle, and I was like, this will be my project while I'm away because when you first start a sweater, it's not massive. So I was like, well, I can just knit and knit and knit. And I mean, I did a big chunk of this on my trip, which is like, I mean, that knitted up quite quickly. I'd say, like, I'd say about like that much was like 2 weeks time. Like that's not. I mean, in between conference and travel and everything else. So I don't know. It's just yeah, it's just not going to be right. I just have a feeling it's just not going to be right. I don't know. It needs to fit his shoulders, but he's got like rugby shape. I don't know. Anyway, if you have any advice as to what I should do, or if you think I should just get on with it and stop being a baby and just make the math, then let me know. Or if you think I should rip it back and start again with like edits that you recommend for adapting this to a man with broad shoulders, please let me know. Because I think he could be a large body block wise, but shoulders wise, he's an extra large. So I just don't know how to combine the two things. Okay, we're moving on. So the next things I'm going to show are mittens because I was inspired again by Woozy by Selene. I just loved her songbird mittens and I really wanted to make them. And I did, and I ripped it all back because they were way too small. And I thought, okay, well, let's try it again, and maybe we'll do a different pattern, and it'll be a gift knit for my partner's dad. And this is what I got. Again, obviously not the songbird mittens. These are the Selbu mittens. I will insert the pattern over here. But I made this. Isn't she so pretty? Well, too bad. She doesn't fit. She doesn't fit me. She doesn't fit anybody that I know. So it's just going to be one mitten that sits in my house. This is it. It stretches so much in the center because there doesn't accommodate like the palm of your hand, like the widest part of your hand. And I mean, lengthwise, it's just fine. And like for my fingers, that is great. It's just yeah, it's just this part here that it doesn't accommodate. So that's a real shame, but she's pretty, so I'm keeping her. And then I have the mittens that I was and am actually going to gift my partner's dad, and they are the Dad's Selbu mittens, and I'll insert the pattern designer here. And I believe I bought this pattern off of Lovecraft, but I know it's on a couple of different places. But yeah, this is him. So very cute. I love it. I made it out of a cashmere, it's cashmerino DK, I believe. So I went up a yarn weight and I went up a gauge. I can't remember what I knitted these on, but I will insert it somewhere here. So yeah, I really like it. This is obviously one hand. This is the other hand though. And this is again me doing exactly what I always do and not buy enough yarn. Um, Ideally, this is supposed to be knit with one 50-gram ball of each color. and you won't use all the yarn. So I was like, well, I know I'm going up a yarn weight, but if I need more, I'll just buy more. Again, you'd think I'd learned my lesson. I did not learn my lesson. So I'm also doing something, I don't know if you caught that, but they are opposites of each other. Now, I don't know how I feel about that now that it's all worked up. I think that they're really cool. Will his dad know that these are a matching pair? The jury's out. I don't know. But I'm hoping to get these done ASAP. I'm just waiting for the one of the colors, either the white or the black, to come back in stock on the site that I ordered the Cashmerino DK from. So once that is back in stock, I will be ordering it and finishing these gloves and giving them to him. It is February now, and the really, really frosty, cold Scottish weather is starting to subside, but it is still Scotland. So I think he could still use a pair of mittens for a little bit longer, but ideally, I just want them out of my knitting project bags. Right. Okay. Next project. I'm so excited to show you, right? Okay. So I started this project. Oh, it smells so good. I started this project because I saw the Ovis sweater by the petite knitter, who I think has since changed her name on Ravelry, but I'll insert her details here. I saw this pattern and I knew immediately I needed to have it in my life right now. I also went to, well, this is a crazy story. This is for all of you Americans watching, this is going to change your life. So, as a first year veterinary student, I had never really left the United States before, other than like a trip when I was in the 8th grade where I got a concussion and don't even remember it. I went to Italy. A story for another time. I had never left the country, never been to the UK, didn't know anything about it, watched a little bit of Outlander, very stereotypical of me. And I came here and I did not realize how accessible the rest of the world is to everyone except the United States. So there is this lovely, lovely airline called Ryanair. And Ryanair does kind of budget airlines. Think Spirit Airlines, but with like slightly more reliability. Slightly. Um, right. So my friends and I, first year, we were like, let's go on a trip. And we looked online and there was a last minute like trip deal for £5, which is like $8. We could get like a round trip, like £5 each way, so £10 round trip ticket to Estonia. Now, as an American, I didn't know where Estonia was. I didn't know anything about Estonia. So I Googled it and I was like, that looks cute. Christmas markets. Yay. Never been to one of those either. So we got on our little plane and we flew to Estonia and oh God, it was stunning. 10 out of 10 recommend. And then, unbeknownst to me, again, geography, because America, um, we were able to take a ferry to Finland. Craziest weekend ever. Totally unexpected trip. We knocked out 2 countries in one go. I went to Helsinki and I bought yarn in Helsinki and yarn in Estonia, and I also bought buttons, which I'll talk about my crazy button collection in another video. I'm yet to put it on a garment, so I just have a collection. But I got all sorts of different yarns, and I thought, what better way to use those yarns than to make the Ovis sweater? Now, this is the sheepiest smelling garment ever. I'm obsessed with it. I could smell it all day. And it just reminds me of our trip because I just had the yarn in my bag that smelled like sheep. So it's all bunched up on these needles, which is a real shame because you can't see how adorable these little sheep are. But I'm using kind of all different scrap yarns, and there's my little sheeps. Hold on, here, let me. Ooh, how freaking cute are they? So they're my little Suffolk sheep. I love them. Yeah, I've got all sorts of different. They are all they are all different weights. Here's the back of my work. I'm quite proud of the back of my work. There's a couple little spots that are, well, there's most of them are like unwoven ends that are kind of sticking out there that aren't doing this stuff. I'm not showing this very well. I'm doing my best. But yeah, a lot of these colors are all different weights, all different brands, but they are kind of Norwegian region ish wools. But one that I really love, and I'll show you. One that I really love, and I don't know how much of the project I can incorporate it into, is this lovely. It's so nice. It is, well, 100% wool. Doesn't really specify. It says it's 30% Estonian sheep. I don't know how true that is. I mean, it says 30 there, but it says Estonian sheep in the print. So I'm wondering if it is actually just Estonian sheep. It's by a company called Sorelli Talu, and there's a website here which I'll put in the description if you wanted to check them out. I'm not sure if you can buy their yarns online, but it feels greasy. And I know that that's not a nice feeling for a sweater, right? But for a teeny tiny touch of color work, I don't know, I don't think it'll really bother me. It's just so like it's you'd think it would be toothy, but it just feels like a coarse sheep. I don't know how to describe it, but I love it. Um, and I'm going to find, because I don't think I can knit the body in this. I don't think I can do much more than just color work in this. So what I think I'll do is find something special, like maybe I could make a bag or something out of this and like just smell it all the time. I don't know. It's kind of creepy to have a bag that I'm smelling, but whatever. Um, and then I have the Alafas Lopi. Did I do okay? So this is the Lopi yarn that I mean, when I had bought it, I hadn't heard of the brand before. Obviously, we've heard of the brand now, so I know that it's not like a super unique find. But at the time, I was like, wow, it's in a different language, and I want to buy it, and so I did. And it's in such a happy yellow color, which I never wear. So having that as like a little touch of color work, I think just makes it so bright and happy. And I have no idea how this sweater is going to turn out because I don't know what colors I'm going to use. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. Um, and then I have no idea where I got these from wools. This also might be a Lopi yarn, but it's kind of this like mold red and browns and don't mind my fingies. Yeah, yeah, I have really short, horrible nails from working on the farm. Well, from needing to do farm animal exam stuff, so they have to be really short. And anyway, so let me see. Think I think that might be it for my 2024 cast-ons. Yeah, I also had a scarf that I just have been using as like a yarn donor for other things. Um, and this, oh, I should also mention, I'm also holding this with the mohair I was using for my porcelain sweater, and I also ran out of that. So it's very on brand. I need to do some serious self reflection on what that means. But I just need to buy things to be prepared. In every other aspect of my life, I am so prepared in OCD and make sure I have everything that I need. Not knitting. Nope. Nope. Right. Okay. I think we're finally on to the what have I spun in 2024 segment. which is crazy. Okay, so now we're on the spinning part of the video, and this has been a crazy journey, right? So I first got this little drop spindle. I love her. She Oh my goodness, that was whiskey. Oh my goodness, he's so funny. So I got this drop spindle and she's so cute. She's got like a little design on the front. And yeah, I watched some videos on YouTube and learned how to spin and I went crazy. Oh wait, there's more. Okay, I'm ready. Sorry. Okay, so first thing that I ever spun implied. Can you believe it? I mean, how cool is that? Right? So, not the most even thing in the world, but boy oh boy, did this change my life. I, oh, whiskey, up, up, good girl. Yes. This is whiskey. Can you lay down? I love you. I know. I know. Can you lay down? Yeah, we got your ducky. Come up here. Good girl. Okay. So boy oh boy, did this change my life, right? I I don't know. It was really addicting to learn how to draft. I had bought fiber off of World of Wool, which is going to be a common theme throughout the rest of this segment of the video. It is just so soft and squishy. When I first spun like the first half of the skein, I was like not super confident in how even everything was spinning up. I was doing it in a couple of different sittings as well, which spinners would know that that's kind of like not ideal, or it tends to kind of like there's a jog between consistency and then kind of like the next type of consistency. So if you're really careful and persistent at the very beginning, you can kind of keep that consistency, but it's quite hard to anyway, I can go on and on. But yeah, so it ended up being so kind of when you ply them together, they ended up being quite even. I mean, for my first time, I'm pretty chuffed, not gonna lie. It's very squishy, bouncy. I mean, you can see like it's kind of art yarny in certain areas, but for the most part, I'm quite happy with this being my first ever one. And then that's when the craziness started, right? I bought um, slivers of different colors off of World of Wool. And now I won't show that one because it's just a single and it's kind of a mess. And I'm actually saving it for like a future kind of tweed spin one day. So I keep all of my scraps to try to recycle everything that I can and not waste anything. But after I learned how to do this one skein, I decided, yeah, girl, you're a pro. Let's get a fleece. So as I mentioned earlier, my friend, we have my partner's friends, like family friends. He is a sheep farmer, and their family is just lovely and amazing. And he offered to bring me back 2 sheep fleeces. So to me, I was like, yeah, that's gonna be great. I'll have yarn forever. And I kind of had an understanding how to process it. I watched a bunch of videos, and I don't know if you know anything about the UK or Scotland, but all it does is rain here. So the one oversight of my life was I can wash this wool. How am I meant to dry it if I can't put it outside? I got really lucky. And I mean, like, I probably should have bought a lottery ticket lucky. I had 4 days of sun. I have not since seen 4 days of sun, no rain. So what I did was I washed everything in a bucket a couple of different times and just was careful not to felt it. I'll insert some pictures because I have some. I'll kind of dot them around as I talk. But um, Whiskey was my little helper, and I just kind of picked it apart, dunked it, washed it with some. I had some non-scented kind of like a detergent, but it wasn't. It's like a biodegradable detergent. It's definitely not wool wash, and it probably wasn't the most ideal way to wash the wool. Kind of thinking back, I think it's fine. It worked great. So big reveal. I ended up breaking it up, laying it out outside in the sun. We had 4 days of sun. I just ended up flipping everything, moving it around, making sure that the parts that were wet got into the sun. Yeah. Anyway, it was a process, and it looked like it had snowed in my front yard in the middle of June or July. Anyway, this is my one of two big trash bags, and I have spun a huge amount of this. This is not the full bag, but it looks like this. And what I do is, yeah, and there is vegetable matter or VM if we're being spinny and cool and know our terminology. Um, right. So I just use dog brushes and I brush out little rolags. And so I use two and kind of like use them like the carding paddles, and I just card out little rolags, and I'll weigh them until I have anywhere. I aim for about 50 grams, and I'll do two or 25 grams on one bobbin, 25 grams on the other. Notice I said bobbin because crazy development in my spinning journey is I bought a spinning wheel. I did it. And it was just kismet because I had gone on Facebook Marketplace and put it as like a little alert. And within a week, I had a notification that somebody had posted their Ashford Traveler that belonged to like an aunt who had passed away. And she's perfect. She's perfect in every way. I'll put some pictures, I don't know, here. And I'm obsessed. I genuinely can't stop spinning. And it just made, I mean, as much as I loved the drop spindle, I watched probably the entire season of Gilmore Girls and I made this. And I'm so proud of this, but that's not sustainable. And now I watched so many spin to knit kind of podcasts and vlogs and things that I was like, that I want to do that. That's like my next big goal. That's my next big goal. And oh, I'm so excited. So now, in hindsight, probably shouldn't have used my like unidentified sheep to spin my first things because I was so confused. I mean, it was a challenge, and it still is a challenge, to be honest, to spin this up in a way that is really nice. And I don't know if it's because it's rolags or because it's a sheep that has kind of like, I don't know if you can see, it's like the fibers. I mean, I know it's not aligned, but the fibers are kind of a mixture of coarse and fine wool, and it kind of just, I mean, it creates a lovely halo, but it does turn to rope so fast. So here are my first spins. I mean, oh my God, right? I mean, I did this like two, this was a day. This was a day. I just went crazy. These are more art yarns. I'm thinking, I mean, they won't go to waste. I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll make pillows or things that I can like throw around the house because it is rustic. Like this is a rustic like feeling yarn. It is it is softer than I expected it to be based off of how the singles felt. But boy oh boy, I will not be making a sweater out of this. um yeah, I'm quite pleased. I mean, just you wait. I just feel like for somebody that just picked up a spindle, that or not a, just picked up a Ashford Traveler spinning wheel who has never used or seen in real life a spinning wheel before, I think I did all right. I'm pretty pleased with that. It's not like I said, not even wasn't going for perfection, which, as I mentioned before, is kind of a hard thing for me to move on from because I'm a perfectionist, and that I think so many of us in the medical field are perfectionists, and it's quite hard to get out of your own way. Hence why I didn't record this video for like a month, even though I was perfectly ready to do so. Um, yeah, notice the twist. That's some crazy twist on that. I'm not gonna lie, but I was experimenting, and that's what we do, right? We experiment, and that's how we learn. And this one's very floof. But again, this is with the yarn or with the fiber from an unidentified sheep that was shorn last summer. Who was gifted? This fleece was gifted to me from the sheep farmer family friends, and I am so grateful. I won't say their name just in case they don't want me to share that, especially since it's Scotland and it's such a small, close community. But they're lovely people, and I'm so grateful. But then so I have plans for all this fiber. I don't think I'm going to spin all of it up into yarn. I think I'd like to give it another go once I show what I've done and how I plan to keep my craft going forward. And I would like to give it another go with a different technique. I also think my spools need some glue because I think they're spinning with the flyer instead of staying still with the brake band. Anyway, um, but I also dabble in sewing. I don't think I'll show my sewing on here, at least for a while, unless it's something that you guys request. I don't really sew garments. It's more, well, I tried, failed. I have like a quilt that I started, whatever. I think it would be so lovely to make one of those puff quilts and just use the wool as stuffing for that and just try to remove as much vegetable matter as I can before shoving that in the squares. And then it would be so warm and cozy. And I'd have like a stunning blanket that is made with the wool from the sheep. And that way it's not going to waste and will be used all the time. And I think that would be a good use. Okay, now we're on to World of Wool because, to be honest, the difference between my spinning with the sheep's wool that I had to process myself and the actual bats that I received from World of Wool. I think it's actually roving. Yeah, it's roving. The roving I received from World of Wool is insane. And I mean, like, I pulled it off the spindle after I applied it and cried real tears. This is my baby. Look at that. I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but I think this looks store bought. Isn't she stunning? This is something I am like the most proud of ever. This is Blueface Leicester. So soft, so squishy. I mean, she feels like a dream. I mean, I'm so proud of this. I can't get over it. So what I did after that, I mean, well, slightly before that, I did another spin that I used slivers, which actually feel just as coarse as my, or not just as coarse. They're all in a line in a nice little mini roving kind of thing. Not quite pencil roving, but roving. And I did one of the pre-made packs from World of Wool, and I just gave this a quick spin. And oh my gosh, like the colors! I did a fractal. Ooh, I did a fractal style spin, and it's my dad's favorite. And so, inspired from my dad and from just in general loving my Blueface Leicester and just the feeling of the spin, I have something to show you. So, I'm going to give you all a sneaky peeky into what is coming soon on this channel. I am going to be doing a spin to knit style channel segment thing. And I think it would be really, really fun. I don't know how exactly I want to do it. In theory, I would love to do it all in one go. There's a YouTuber whose name I'll put here, and oh gosh, I mean, I watch her videos and I'm just mesmerized. She hasn't come out with any videos, I don't think, in over a year, I'd say. which is a real shame. I hope she's doing okay. But yeah, I was obsessed, and I just think she's so talented, and she just inspired me so much just to do something like that. And I never ever in my wildest dreams thought that this would be my life ever. I never thought I would be a spinner. I never thought I'd be a knitter to the, like and just be successful in that way. Um, so what I the animals, man. I mean, it was gonna happen, right? I'll just do a coffee break while she drinks her water. Good girl. Come on up. Good girl. Right. Okay. So yeah, so I'm hoping to do a segment. I'm not really sure how I want to organize it. I think because I'm so busy, and to be honest, so little vet blurb is vet school in the UK is 5 years instead of 4 years like in the US. So as a veterinary student, we already have our bachelor. Well, as a US veterinary student, I already have my bachelor's degree from a US school. And then I came here for 5 years instead of 4 years. So I'm in my fourth year. I'm finishing up my fourth year this semester. So it's all of the exams that are like the most important exams just to move on to our what's called professional year where we'll be working in practice. So I'm going to be here, there, and everywhere. I think it's going to be a matter of what days I have off, what that would look like. And uh, so, yeah, so when it comes to creating content, and because I've never done this before, I don't really know how I want to do it. I would like to be consistent on here, and I think the best way for me to be consistent would be to do update vlogs and then create maybe a playlist. So that way, if you wanted to see the start to finish project, you could watch it as a playlist versus me compiling everything and knitting, like the spinning and the knitting all in one. I don't know how long it would take me, especially since I have projects that are kind of on the go just now. So I think that's the best way to do it. And I'm so excited, and I'll tell you why. So on World of Wool, there's it's like a website in the UK. I think they also have a location that you could go to. I think it's in York, England, which is quite far from me, so I can't just go. But what they can do for you is you can create your own color pack of fiber for your own project. So what I did is exactly that. My dad, oh, whiskey. Sorry, she likes to shake the table. She has all of her toys like right on underneath the couch. So would you like to come back up? Good girl. So I have three different spin to knit projects that I think I'm gonna do. Hi. Yeah, there's plastic in there. Why is that the case, huh? She eviscerated it. This is her duck. She eviscerated her duck. Okay, so while she gets tummy rubs, I'll tell you. Oh, thank you. You lay down. Yeah. Oh, good girl. Okay. All right. So we've got the dog. We've got the dog. Right. So there's three different spinning projects that I would like to do. So the first one was for my dad, and I think I had just mentioned that he really loved this spin. So I call this spin cabin flannel, and I think it looks exactly like what I would wear in a cabin in the woods in Vermont and just sit while the leaves are changing, drinking my coffee in the morning, listening to the birds, and looking out at just nature. Which, yeah, that's the vibe, right? So he really loved that. And that's kind of like my dad's general vibe. But he just bought a house in West Virginia, and it's kind of in the woods, kind of on the Potomac River, and he just is obsessed with his new house. Oh, I really hope you can hear me. Rutro, I really hope you can hear me. Yeah, and so that's my dad's favorite kind of aesthetic and vibe. And he just bought a house in West Virginia on the Potomac River, and it's very much so in the woods and kind of set back. And it is his like mountain house that, I mean, he's saved for a house like this his whole life. I mean, this is my dad's dream. And I'm so happy that he's finally getting to realize that dream. And I thought, what better way to, what better way to celebrate that than a knit that I made myself. And my dad really loved that spin. I mean, I think he'd be happy just getting the yarn, but obviously it would just sit on a shelf and wouldn't do anything. Like he just likes looking at this. He'll just I sent him a picture of it and he just shows people like the colors. Um, so I thought I would use World of Wool's kind of color palette thing. So I chose the 23 micron merino versus the like finer merino because I thought it doesn't need to be like cashmere, the most luxurious thing ever, because I also don't know what I'm going to make. I think 23 microns, blue face luster is also around that. So I think it's perfectly fine to use next to skin. I think what I'll do is spin him like a hat or knit him a hat or a pair of socks or something, but maybe not socks because I think it would get destroyed. But anyway, I'll show you the fiber. Yeah. So this is a colorway I named Parker's Ridge. And that's the name of my dad's cabin. We named it Parker's Ridge. My last name is Parker, and yeah, I don't know, it's just perfect. A little bit of inspo. I think his girlfriend really, like, we both really love Outlander. Even though it's super stereotypical for me to love Outlander, I love Outlander regardless. I love the books, I love the show. It's great. And so does his girlfriend. And she was like, it's kind of like Fraser's Ridge. And I was like, ah, perfect name. So my dad and I have a picture of us. I'll put it here. I'll get this eventually. Here. And I met him outside on the edge of the overlook to the Potomac, and we watched the sunrise. I brought out my little blanket and I wrapped myself up and I was drinking my coffee with him. And that's kind of my dad and my thing, is watching the sunrise together. Ever since I was a little kid, we'd go down to the water. I grew up on Cape Cod, so we'd go down to like the kind of like the beach jetty area. We'd pick up some Dunkin' Donuts and we would sit by the water, and I would drink my hot chocolate and he would have his or my vanilla chai, and he would have his coffee, and we would just sit there every morning when I was a young kid, and or weekend mornings when I was a young kid. And then as I got older, when I'd come home from college and visit, we would do that together too. So little story about myself. But yeah, I just thought that these colors really kind of captured like the trees. So we've got like a kind of like a brown. We also have like a mossy green. This you'll see from the picture that I'll put in the corner, that corner, that that is like the shot of sunlight right over the Potomac, and I think it's like so good. Um, and then we've got kind of like the misty morning on the water. We've got like the water in the sky, and then I've got more kind of woodsy browns and kind of like a warm kind of chestnutty walnutty color. Actually, it's called hazelnut. Like, let's be honest, I gotta just use the colors. So I know it's in the bag, but what I'll do is when I do the spin to knit, I will show all the colors laid out. I'll show how I'll break it up. I am thinking I'm going to do a fractal spin just like this one, because I think that the splicing of these colors, or the barber pulling, gotta use my terminology, the barber pulling of the colors would be so lovely. I think that that would be excellent. And I can't wait. I just don't know what I'm going to make out of it. I think I'm going to try to make it in like a DK weight. I think that would be my goal, because I think I could do pretty much anything with a DK. Um, where if I go finer, I might be more restricted, and if I go thicker, I don't know. I might try to just find a pattern first. I think that would be the smart way to do that. Right, okay, next one. The next one is, this is so perfect. So my aunt was and is one of the most special people in my life. She was there for me through some really tough times growing up. She is just super close to nature. Her and her husband build a huge garden wherever they live, and they harvest most of their food. She is an incredible cook, and she just is. Every single person on my dad's side of the family is so crafty and lovely and amazing. And I just, her craft is cooking and caring for people, and she just is amazing. So, Auntie, if you're watching this, I love you. Right. So, she makes my favorite thing in the world, which is blueberry cake. And it's something that she makes for me every time I visit, which unfortunately isn't very often anymore because I live so far away. Um, and so I picked out colors to capture blueberry cake. And here they are. And oh my gosh, is this perfect? I am beside myself with joy. So I'll put a picture of a blueberry cake here and like what I'm looking at. And if you can see, these colors perfectly capture blueberry in cake. Like especially this one. Incredible. I am obsessed. I think it's so stunning. And I got two of this oyster color because I thought I wanted it to be a lighter spin, kind of like it's mostly cake with blueberries in it. So I got kind of like these three like lighter colors here. And I thought like that's kind of like the crumbly like cinnamon sugar top that's like still light, like kind of light on the cinnamon, more on the sugar aspect. And then like this. I don't know how I want to spin this. So I'm hoping to see if you guys have any advice. I'm not sure if I should do it as a fractal spin because I do really like the look of a fractal spin. I know people tend to not be sure if they like, I know it's kind of divided if people like the barber pole look or not, but I really kind of like the barber pole look. And I do. I like the barber pole look quite a lot. So I think it would be fine and I think it could capture it. I'm just not sure how I want to spin. Like I think I might just like split in the light color more frequently. I'm not sure. If you have any advice on how you think I should spin this so it captures like a cake feeling, like blueberries inside of a cake, or like if you imagine biting into a blueberry muffin, like what that would look like, please let me know because I'm so interested to hear your thoughts on that. Okay, last one. Okay, last but certainly not least, this is my ultimate goal of 2025. Um, I'm so excited to share this with you. So, I'm sure many of you have seen that the Norma sweater has been super popular lately on Ravelry and social media, and it has basically taken over my Discover page on Instagram. I saw it and I was like, wow, that's nice. Not really sure if it's like for me or what. And now that I've seen it in so many different colorways, I have to knit it. And what better way to have to knit something than to create a bigger problem for yourself and have to spin the yarn as well? I don't know. So I got my fiber yesterday for this, and I am so excited. So we have natural blue fleece Leicester because we know I can spin that fine, and pink merino. I am so excited. So what I did is I looked at the kind of like the yarn that was recommended in the pattern, and you're a dork. So I looked at the yarn recommended in the pattern, and I tried to just do a bunch of different calculations, like what's the weight, what's the gauge, how thick, how thin, um, how many grams per skein or ball or whatever, and I just tried to do some rough calculations and overestimate how much I would need. The trend is that I never buy enough stuff. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I have plenty. So I think the pattern recommends 400 grams. So I got 500 grams of, of fiber. So I'm going to try to spin this up at a very even weight. I forget the weight that I'm supposed to be spinning it, but I have the pattern all saved and I'm going to make sure that I am prepared before I start the spin. Um, so this is going to be my main color for my sweater. It's a natural brown blue face Leicester, so it's not dyed. It's just a natural natural brown, which is stunning. And I think it has this lovely kind of marling, like lighter guard hair color that you see like in the sheep when they're alive. And I alive you see in the sheep when it's on them, not anyway, that you see on the sheep. There we go. So I really love this color. And then I have this natural white blue face lesser, which is the more kind of traditional coloring for a blue face. And it's just lovely. And I think together, because of the guard hairs inside the brown, it just looks so stunning together. And then I was thinking, because I'm a 90s kid, right? Pink and brown, baby. It goes good with everything. So, and I am very much in a pink kick at the moment. So I got this pink merino and I love it. I think it's a stunning color. I think it goes well with all of these. Like, let's put all three together without making too much noise, shall we? I mean, come on. So I'm imagining this is kind of the upper and lower color work of the stripes in the, and I think I'm gonna make the new Norma. I'm not entirely sure because I think it's time to do a raglan. I have started like 4 different raglans and ripped them back. I love it though. So much so I just enjoy casting them on, knitting them to the yoke, and running out of yarn and just ripping it back. So I just think that would be quite fun. But I do love a drop shoulder. I mean, I made this sweater, and this is a saddle shoulder to be fair, but I do love just the look of the off the shoulder kind of lining, like the lines that are formed. I don't know fashion terms. I'll get better, I swear. Um, but yeah, I just really like that look. And even though this one is like 2 sizes too big, even with positive ease, I mean, it's massive. Like the neckline is just a boat neck on me, unintentionally. So I'm gonna knit a small size, and so I have just a little bit of positive ease. I'm just so excited, and this is one that I'm hoping to spin up sooner rather than later and kind of share that process with you so that way I can start knitting when I'm on placement, because I think a lot of my vlogs starting in May onward will be at my partner's dad's house or at my placement, like where I'm staying or like during placement, whatever. So it would be nice to have these all spun up and ready to go, and I can just share my process over the course of the year. And I think that's true for all of these actually. I would like to have all of these spun up before I start placements, which is a big task, but I think after like the week of I also have surgery coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'm expecting to be sitting on my butt studying for exams, and I think it's really nice. And I mean, exam scores have gone up, I will say, since I started knitting, because what I do is I burn out my brain on studying. I take a break and I knit, and then I feel more awake, or it's a great way to unwind at the end of the day and actually sleep instead of my mind reeling from studying. So, so this was a really long first episode, I think. I have been really anxious and nervous to record this because I am not somebody that is super content creator geared up, but I'm super pleased. I'm super pleased that I was able to share all of this with you. I really hope that I get to continue making content, and I hope that it's interesting. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything you would like to know more about any of the things I discussed, whether it's my knitting, if it's my spinning, or vet school. I don't know how much of my audience or how much of you really care about my veterinary experience, but it is such a massive part of my life and has been for so long. I am more than happy to share. And I know when I was a prospective veterinary person slash student, I didn't really have a lot of people on the internet who could like really give me advice. I would be happy to do that as like a separate part of the channel. I won't bore all of my knitting and spinning people with my life details if you're not interested in it. but yeah, please let me know. I would love advice on the Billie pullover and how to adapt it for my partner. I would love to hear your advice on the blueberry cake spin if you have any spinning experience or just generally have like a yarn that you really like how it's spun and maybe give me some recommendations. I am on Instagram and Ravelry, but this is all very new. I don't have anything posted on Instagram yet. I am planning to start being more active on there. And Ravelry, I have kind of the things I'm working on just now. But I will see you in the next podcast episode where I hope to share what I'm currently knitting on and currently spinning. And we will start the Spinning to Knit podcast as well. This has been great. And thank you so much if you made it to this part of the video for joining me. Thank you for taking the time to get to know me. And I hope that you made a lot of progress on whatever you're knitting on, as those twins who knits would say. I really like that they say that. And yeah, I look forward to getting to know you all over the course of this journey. If you enjoyed this content or would like to see more, please consider subscribing. And if you don't mind sending me a little like as well, if you enjoyed it, that'd be great too. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.